Your Eminence, I wish to know the difference between tithe, seed, and sacrifice.
Pax Christi Nigerian Catholics. Did you notice the laughter that erupted from the audience after His Grace read that question? Anyway, this was the concluding part of the interaction that His Eminence had after the lecture he gave at the Cardinal Francis Arinze Annual Lecture 2025. He usually entertains questions, and Catholics had questions. Some of them sounded unnecessary, some of them were very, very important. And then some of them, well, what can I say? Just take a listen to the interaction that His Eminence had answering some of the questions that Catholics had, especially around the issue of money.
Another question. Your Eminence, in my parish today, our parish priest is after money, and not the souls of parishioners. The third one. Thanks, Your Eminence, for the wonderful teachings. Question 1. In the liturgy of Holy Eucharist, when the Pope's name is mentioned, some priests say the Pope Leo, without putting the 14th. Is it correct? Number 2 question. What are we still to do when a parishioner dies, both in town or in rural areas, when the dead is not belonging to any statutory body? The priest will not bury him or her with mass, and the family will call a Pentecostal pastor to preside at the burial.
Some of the questions are loaded with local events or memories, so that when you said the first one, I don't know what it is, but many of you reacted. What is it they mean? As no thanks, sacrifice.
These terminologies do not exist in the Catholic Church, Your Eminence. The Pentecostals, they sow seed. What they call sowing seed is that you donate money so that prayer will be said for you. The bigger the amount you donate, it is expected the more your blessing will be. We do not promote such in the Catholic Church. We do not use the terminology of sowing seed. Tithe, Your Eminence, tithe is in the Bible, Old Testament. But since I entered the seminary and then got ordained several decades ago, I have never been taught to preach tithe or collect tithe from anybody. In this archdiocese, we do not preach that, we do not advocate that, we do not teach that. But some lay people, when you are passing, they will get an envelope and be following you. Even when you go for pastoral visit, they'll be following you. Say, what is it? My tithe, my tithe. I say, did I tell you anything about tithe? Go to your parish priest. So what I will tell the parish priest today is to know that that is not our practice. We don't preach it, we don't advocate it. But if somebody comes and gives it to you, you tell him, we do not preach tithe in the Catholic Church. But if you are giving this for prayers for you, I will remember you in the Mass. But don't go about telling people to pay tithe. It does not exist in the Catholic Church.
Somebody asked that if a priest preaches money, 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 what I will say is this. One day, after Mass, a woman came to me and said, well, There is a time for everything. A time to ask for money and a time not to ask for money. Common sense will do the rest. But common sense is not very common. So if you have such, let somebody who loves the priest tell him quietly, privately, when others are not listening. Perhaps he will thank you. Pope Leo, there is no need to add 14th. Everybody knows it's 14th. But if anybody asks 14th, we are not going to quarrel about that. I don't get the other question. Yeah. All right.
Your Eminence, ignorance of the scriptures is ignorance of Christ. But so unfortunately, sometimes most of our priests ignore the Sunday catechesis where this can be taught. This needs to be addressed. The second one, what makes a person a parishioner? Or what identifies a person to have an entitlement in the parish as regards burial rights, wedding rights, etc. Number 2, does a lay faithful have the right to give a homily? Number 3, can praises supersede spiritual talk during homily?
This person is actually making a statement. The person is saying that preaching should contain a lot of scripture. Agreed. Sure. Parishioner, how do you enrage? It becomes a question of canon law. What is it? If there was anybody who refused you burial, you have a right to appeal to your diocesan authorities because burial is a serious thing. Lay person to give homily. The Catholic Church decides that deacons and priests preach. That's why they have the stole. But there are many occasions for everybody else to teach the faith. Like teaching the catechism, you don't need to be a priest or deacon. There are many occasions, but preaching is regarded as a liturgical act during a liturgical celebration. That is why the church reserves that to deacons and priests. But a layperson can be a theologian bigger than a priest. The third one, I didn't.
That most priests are ignorant. Yeah, Your Eminence, you have covered it. The next one is, why did Nigerian government, after the war, expel foreign Catholic missionaries? Number 2, was the provision of aid to eastern part a reason for that?
Well, you remember there was a celebration in Onitsha today here. It was, I have forgotten how many years, maybe 6 years ago. And General Gowon came to that event in this Holy Trinity field. And Monsignor Buku, God rest his soul, was there at Mass. So I called him. I said, General Gowon, you remember you were head of state in 1970, and Monsignor Buku and I came to you in Dodam Barracks to beg you not to deport our missionaries, whom you rounded up in Port Harcourt at that time, priests and sisters. I said, Ghana, go on. You see, the church is not against Nigeria. You see, we are promoting the church. Go on, speak. He did his best to speak. I must say that in that meeting, when we met him, we begged him not to send away the missionaries. He was nice to us, but I could see that the government had already decided and they were not ready for logic. But he said to me, you have your Nigerian priests, go and work with them. I said, can you work in your army without soldiers? He said, you mean without officers? I said, all right, without officers. He said, no, work with them. But I could see that the federal government was not against the church. But governments get angry. They said that relief supplies were flown in without federal government. It wasn't logic. It was a decision by government.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Is it right or liturgical for lay people to contribute or say something when the priest is delivering the homily? So when the priest is preaching, the lay person will be preaching from his seat. Running commentaries. Again, is it proper for a lay person at the direction of the priest to read out from the Bible while the homily is still going on? Maybe the priest will tell them to read out, I guess. I don't know how you should be reading and others will be hearing it.
Do you really need answer to that? No need. There must be something wrong in that parish. It is not normal. But there is time for everything. For instance, the brothers of St. Stephen had their retreat. During their retreat, they have a mass for all the dead brothers. In the beginning of the mass, I was chief celebrant, but I asked the brother, read the names of all the brothers. That's okay. So, good sense. But as I said before, common sense is not very common.
Indeed, as His Eminence said here, common sense is not very common. There were a lot of other things that His Eminence shared here, some of which also were contributions from His Grace Archbishop Valerian Okeke, the Archbishop of Onitsha. So once again, I will encourage you to go to his page, watch the full interaction. There were more questions that were asked even before these questions here, and I'm very sure it will be worth your while. Thank you once again for watching. Hopefully you have gained a thing or two from the answers shared here, and I'll talk to you soon. As always, God bless you.